Welcome to another episode of Healing Shift. I'm your host, Anita Passy, and delighted to be with you today. Today I'm going to be speaking to a wonderful lady called Michelle Hammond. I've known Michelle for many years, and Michelle is a health and wellness consultant and educator. She's the founder of the TPOT Academy, and she's worked with luxury hotels and resorts all over the world, supporting them with their training and also their workplace wellness. And for those of you that are new to the Healing Shift podcast, this is a podcast that I've been hosting for the last couple of years now. And what we do here is bring you a different vision of how things can be done to support your path towards health, healing and transformation. And it's where I'm interviewing inspiring healers and practitioners and thought leaders and even artists who really help us expand our ways of thinking and doing, and also give us the tools to heal ourselves. So thank you for joining us, Michelle. Lovely to see you. And very excited to hear about your wonderful journey. So your career was initially formed by psychology, and now you're training in Chinese medicine. So bring us up to date, please.
Well, it actually started in beauty therapy. So I actually started as a beauty therapist and an aerobic and yoga instructor. And that was really because when I started as a beauty therapist back then, the venue that I started working at in my first kind of job struggled to get daytime instructors. So they made all the beauty therapists train to be aerobic instructors and for the morning classes and the lunchtime classes. So I actually started into the world of beauty therapy. And then I moved into more advanced complementary therapy and yoga and Pilates based sort of exercise. And it was actually when I moved into more management roles, so I started then managing health clubs and luxury spas and resorts around the world. And as I was doing that, I got to a point where I was managing a really big team. And I thought, gosh, at this point, I'd spent 10 years practicing and managing and had learned so much about the human body. But I realized that actually I knew very little about the human mind and behavior. And suddenly having, kind of 150 odd people to be responsible for and different cultures, different backgrounds, different ages, I realized that I needed to delve deeper. So I started learning coaching and NLP with the lovely Dr. Richard Bandler. I got to be taught by him directly, which was an amazing experience. And that just lit a fire inside me into psychology. So I then started in clinical hypnotherapy because I thought that would link really well with beauty therapy and the types of treatments we did and help people balance that from a guided visualization and meditation perspective as well. And then I went into psychosexual hypnotherapy and regression, and then into psychotherapy. And more recently, actually, I've also trained in something called BWRT, which is brainwave recursive therapy, which is based on neuroscience. And the incredible Terence Watts has developed this new treatment, which means that we can work with people who are really stuck mentally with trauma or sort of phobias and sort of challenges, anxiety-based panic, and anything like that, really quickly, literally within a couple of sessions. So yeah, it started as a means to manage more effectively, and then just took on a whole world of its own.
It's an amazing journey, isn't it? And my path is not dissimilar to yours. Once you open up that treasure trove of all these incredible tools, techniques, it's I think what you get very the guidance. One thing leads to the other. You're also training in Chinese medicine. Now that's a huge undertaking. Having studied Ayurvedic medicine and been through that process, both being traditional medical health systems, very, very similar concepts in the sense of working on energy and again mind, body, spiritual aspects. So working with an individual purely holistically. So tell us about that. What made that decision?
Well, it probably wasn't the best decision as kind of running sort of a household, 2 children and running a business and then launching into that probably wasn't my brightest moment, but I'm glad I did it. But I think at that point, I've been in the industry for 30 years and I have always felt like a child in a sweet shop. I mean, I have been on so many courses and I've learned so many skills. I've been lucky to live in so many beautiful places and be influenced by Asian techniques in Bali to stuff from Europe and entrenched in, and even sort of our own history here in the UK. And it just felt like every time I learned a new skill, a new treatment type, a new training of any description, everything led back to Chinese medicine. And so I got to a point where I just thought, actually, my youngest had started primary school, and I thought, okay, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. You know, I'm 47 years old. At the time, I was 45 when I enrolled, and actually one of the best training schools for traditional Chinese medicine in Europe is in Reading, called the College of Integrative Chinese Medicine, and most of the owners, the teachers and the owners of the college have wrote most of the books that are in the Western sort of hemisphere on traditional Chinese medicine. And I thought, God, I'm 15 minutes from their door. If this isn't a sign to do it, I don't know what is. So I kind of just felt like everything had led to there, and I want to deepen my own path, but I also wanted to deepen my practice, both, you know, one-on-one with my clients and within our training. So I thought, okay, I need to go to source. I need to delve deep into what this is really about, and open my mind to what I don't know.
Yeah, wow, your words ring, you know, they just ring so sweetly for me as well, because my commitment came through a very similar way. And how is it impacting your ideas now? So I think you've completed the first year, haven't you?
Couple of years, yeah. So I'm 2 years in, so I've got a year left for the degree, and then I'm hoping to sort of go on from there. But I think it's way harder than I thought. It's way more integrative than I thought. So I thought, having been a therapist and in this world for 30 years, and having been exposed to so many different types of principles and practices, that I would, if I'm honest, probably find the first year a lot easier than I did. I thought I would go in with a level of understanding and awareness that was already kind of well above the average. And I realized I had to kind of forget a lot of what I'd learned, actually, and kind of put it to one side. And particularly with the psychology, because actually traditional Chinese medicine goes way deeper into psychology and our emotional well-being than I ever gave it credit for. I thought it was, as an energy medicine, was still focused very much on the physical and symptoms, and getting to the root cause of those symptoms. And I realized actually that's not the case. And I'm very lucky. I studied traditional Chinese medicine at a university that integrates both traditional Chinese medicine and 5 elements. And it's actually the 5 elements that is way more integrative into the psychological and emotional aspects of somebody's constitution, like with the doshas, with Ayurveda. And the TCM is much more about kind of symptom recognition, and kind of has a synergy more aligned to Western medicine diagnosis.
I find, Ayurveda, when I talk to students, when I'm teaching students, and they ask me, what's the difference with Chinese medicine? And really the systems are very aligned. I think the greatest difference is Chinese medicine is quite logical. So even when you're, say, looking at the map of the vital points on the body, with Chinese medicine, you look very specifically, don't you? So you sort of like go, it's 3 fingers down and 2 across. And whereas Ayurveda is more, we're taught to focus more intuitively. And I think that, it's both pathways in are so relevant, especially at a time where so many of our therapists and practitioners are, their clients are presenting with chronic anxiety, chronic stress, and Western medicine isn't coping very well with what we're seeing. So
I think that's the beauty with things like Chinese medicine, is that, a headache's a headache, isn't it, in most sakes or purposes? But actually the differentiation in traditional Chinese medicine means that headache can be around 30, 40 different causes from that one headache, because it depends whether the headache came on quickly, whether it came on gradually, whether it's more on the left side of the head, the back of the head, the top of the head, whether it also makes you feel nauseous. All of these things play a part to actually which organs might be involved, and then what the treatment plan might be. Where traditionally in Western medicine, we've got a headache, people reach for an over-counter, ibuprofen or a Nurofen or something, and take it, and that's that. They're not really thinking about actually what caused this, how has it come on, when's it impacting me, what else might I be doing to sort of help us.
Yeah, so it's much more, but ultimately, hopefully then somebody that works with you in that capacity also has the tools, the techniques to support themselves as they move on in life, and also a lot more awareness actually of what's going on with their body and in their in their life as well. Certainly with Ayurveda, we'll have at least a 90-minute consultation initially, which is far different from your 3 minutes that you get with your doctor. And this is looking at all aspects of health and really trying to kind of piece together the puzzle, really join up those dots and consider what is it that might have caused this in the first place, instead of sort of within 3 minutes, what can you actually do? Not an awful lot.
I think, as you say, the 90 minutes in any form of complementary therapy, and particularly things like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine, are the norm, especially in that initial diagnostic and that initial sort of getting to know someone. Yes. And the downside of only having 3 minutes, and I feel for most of the GPs for that limitation, is they can only deal with one symptom. Well, as we know, if somebody comes in with a symptom, that may not be what the real issue is. That's just what's presenting, and we need to delve deeper to get to that. But if you don't, then of course you potentially, and quite often, may be treating the wrong thing, or putting a plaster over the problem.
Yeah. So so with all of all the methodologies that you've trained in, it's wide and vast, so that knowledge is such deep knowledge, and you've created TPOT. So TPOT is your training academy, and you train therapists, practitioners, you collaborate with luxury spas, and you provide bodywork training specifically for cancer patients. I know there's other elements to that training as well. So how did you start to sort of cohere all of the concepts that you've trained in into the model of TPOT?
Well, I think it all came down to two things, really. I've always had my child in a sweet shop for 30 years moments has been purely based on the fact that I'm absolutely still in awe of the human body. I mean, that was from my first training into therapy until this moment. No matter what job I've had, it's that insatiable passion and curiosity for how our body and mind works that's kind of sustained me. So that, teamed with my belief that touch is our greatest gift, that having spent decades running and leading large-scale operations and spas and resorts and seeing what people needed, both who were coming and seeking those experiences and services and the people that were delivering them and sort of caring and the giving of those services and experiences, I felt like, particularly the 10 years pre-TPOT, launching TPOT, that we were focusing so much on product and place. And, I was involved in designing some beautiful spa resorts around the world and have worked with some amazing brands. But it just felt like that was where the glory was. That was where everyone was focused on. And actually, I felt like we were missing the real heart of it all, which was actually the connection, whether that be physical and through our massage and our touch and our physical connection and delivery of treatments and services, or our emotional connection, our ability to give each other time and space to really see and hear each other. And so TPOT came about because of my want. I was already running a training school, but it was focused around business management and leadership. And I just was missing that human connection myself and that ability to really deliver on treatment and service and training. I also felt like there was a lot of opportunity to grow exceptional therapists. There were a lot of therapists coming into the sector, but there wasn't much for them to do other than product house training to develop themselves. And I wanted to give them an opportunity to really stay in the profession long term and really evolve their vocational skills and practical skills, but also celebrate them and elevate them and put them on a podium and go, actually, this is the gift. It doesn't matter where they're working and what products they're working with most of the time. Of course, we want beautiful natural products that have benefit and beautiful places that create a well experience. But the gift is the people. And it came about, actually, I remember being stood at an event and I was talking to Kathy Ball, who was the founder of Calcott Spa Collection. And I'd come back from running a resort overseas, and I said to her, what are your biggest challenges at the moment? And I remember distinctly her saying to me, oh, it's still working with cancer, Michelle, a conversation we'd had years ago. And me going, why? What is the problem? Like, cancer in itself is just an umbrella term. As professional therapists, there's no reason to turn someone away for cancer. She's like, I know, and I won't name him, but an individual from one of our leading associations came over, and I remember him kind of going, yeah, but it's complicated. And just a red rag to a bull to me, because I was like, it doesn't need to be complicated. These are human beings, these are real people, and actually at a time they need us as professional practitioners more. And what we're really then saying as an industry is we're really geared to treating people who are only well. And then that puts us in the same vein as some of the challenges we're seeing with modern medicine. So I just felt like, actually, no, something needs to be done. And I've wanted to launch the treatment side of my training school for a long time. And that kind of was the catalyst really to go, okay, here's our opportunity. Let's delve into the research of what it is as an industry that's really stopping us and making us afraid of treating people with cancer. And then let's look at how we put the solution together. And TPOT was born, and our treatment training sort of came about from there.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you're going from strength to strength, I know, and there's, many wonderful things in the pipeline. And so I wanted to ask you, our audience there, it's predominantly it's people out there in the world who are looking who want to go deeper into their own health, hopefully find solutions for themselves and their family and their friends. Be educated and guided by us, experts who have trained in all these other modalities. But what are some of the challenges in delivering the message of alternative and complementary health to, say, the layperson? What are some of the things you've come across, and where do you think we're going with it?
So I think there's an empowerment, there's both an education and an empowerment piece. So I think the education is better. I mean, technology and social media and everything's allowed us all to get, access to information much more quickly. The downside is we now know there's also a saturation of fake news and fake information and fake statistics, and actually you can find something to prove any sort of thoughts and philosophies and principles you want. You just have to look for it and know what you're looking for. So I think now we are probably a bit overloaded with information, and people feel a bit overwhelmed with what is right and what is not. And I think even just conversations around COVID and vaccines has proved just how catalytic that kind of divide is, and how varied that conversation can get. So I think having trusted sources of education that's backed up by science, backed up by ancient wisdom, and integrative to kind of, the knowledge that we have now is really key, and sort of having those trusted sources. But I think it's also empowering people to do more for themselves and not rely on something outside of themselves to fix. The headache one's a prime example. I have lots of friends at the minute they get a headache will reach straight away for a paracetamol or a Nurofen or whatever, and they don't first start to think, well, actually, is it because I haven't moved all day and I've been sat on back-to-back Zoom meetings? Is it because I'm staring at a light from my screen? Is it because I haven't drank enough water? Is it because actually, I had a bottle of wine last night? And, whatever it is, we're not always thinking about actually, what is it? Where's the pattern? Am I slowing down enough to really connect with myself and go, actually, how does my body work, and when does it work well, and what am I doing around the times it works well for me? Because we're all unique, and I think that's something as well to really celebrate, is we're not all the same. So even though we have generalized advice by drink this much, eat these amount of fruit and vegetables, we know that we're all individual, and it takes time, and that normally comes with slowing down. Absolutely. But life's fast-paced, isn't it? And there's this to survive and pay our bills, and we're in a cost of living crisis, so people are now working harder than ever before for a lot less, and it's stressful. And if you're managing, whether it's older parents, families, life, friends generally, it's a challenge. I don't know many people who aren't struggling in some way, shape or form at the moment. So I don't feel like people don't know what to do for themselves. Knowledge isn't necessarily the issue, although there's this saturation of confusing information out there. I think it's more about being realistic and giving people more practical ways to integrate the knowledge into their daily life.
Yes, yeah. And I think I started off life as a journalist, so I come from that background. And you said something really interesting, that actually, information at the moment can be quite divisive, but it's all, the key thing is it's all very separate. Whereas actually, if we shape the information into a way that can be delivered to people, where it actually, that narrative starts to become integrative, that it's not one without the other, we actually start to naturally put people on this path. And also offering, like you say, guidance in a much more simpler way. For instance, if you have got that headache, what are some of the self-care things that you can do in 5 minutes? If you've got longer, if you've got 15 minutes, then what might be something that you can do in 15 minutes? Or if it's something that you feel you're feeling so out of sorts that you really need to recharge, then what are the options there? We're in the wellness world, we're in the self-care world, we're in the natural healing world, and often it can seem, when we look at some of the wonderful experiences that are offered, we've got incredibly beautiful retreats, we've got these wonderful weekend workshops, but for the common, for the layperson, the common man, what are just some of the things they can do on a day-to-day basis? I think listening to you, that we definitely need to have more of that going on.
Yeah, well, I think, and it's been quite elitist, the world of wellness, hasn't it? I think it's changing, and that's beautiful. And I think COVID's definitely accelerated that change, which, thank God some positives came out of it. But I think that a lot of people have thought of going for treatments, experiences and retreats as something indulgent and something luxurious and something that is definitely a real treat, because we're taught from quite a young age, subliminally, actually, to kind of focus on stuff outside of ourselves. Even at school, it's all very much focused on results, isn't it? And learning for future, and learning for achievement, and learning for a great job, and all the rest of it. And actually, I think if we just helped people lift their general values and their recognition of self-worth. I mean, we're all unique. I mean, it never ceases to amaze me, the fact that every single person walking the planet right now is an incredible stroke of luck. I mean, the journey for that trillion, what is it, something like 1 trillion chance that we'll be here. But here we are, all of us that are here, we're here. And so to take that moment to realize, actually, no matter where you are or what's going on in your life right now, you are unique. There will never be anyone else like you. And actually, you matter. And so giving yourself permission to go, actually, no matter how shitty the situation is, or no matter how much pain I'm in, or no matter what's going on right now, I matter. And I'm going to find a way, and it might not be, quick fixes, but I'm going to find a way to do a little bit for myself every single day because I matter. Yeah. And that's definitely a message we need to teach our children as well, that they've got this self-worth and that they are more than whatever exam results they get, or what job title they have, or what car they drive, or what house they live in. That actually we know none of that stuff, and COVID really brought that home for most people, that actually it's this sense of being well. I mean, our health is our greatest asset, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Without health, what have we got? And I think that's food for thought, really. Absolutely. I mean, do are there some examples that you could give that feel, let's say, they feel effortless to engage in supportive self-care? Some simple 5-minute things that our viewers could do.
When I was working with I won't name it, where I was working with a large financial institute over the last few years, and we were looking at kind of workplace wellness, but also what that means, because the workplace isn't necessarily this place we go to anymore. It might be your home, it might be the coffee shop, or a third space, or whatever. And how do we create what I like to call micro moments? Because, even take something like 30-minute exercise. The government guidance is 30 minutes a day, isn't it, of kind of moderate exercise, a couple of strength sessions a week, but 30 minutes of exercise generally is the rule. Now, most people either do that or don't. And actually what we find is 1 in 2 women and 1 in 3 men don't achieve that minimum at the moment in the UK, which is shocking, because we know the consequence of not moving. I mean, moving really is magic. I always call it the magic of movement, but it's not always easy to do. Sometimes the most movement I get is from the kettle or the bathroom, back to my desk, so with all the knowledge in the world, I don't always get away from my desk, and I can sometimes get to the end of the day and go, gosh, I haven't even done a few hundred steps, let alone 10,000. And so what I've learned to do is kind of go, okay, if I think do exercise or don't exercise, I will either do it or don't do it. It's hit or miss. Where if I think, actually, how can I integrate these micro moments? I make 8 to 10 cups of herbal tea a day. So I can do some squats whilst the kettle's boiling. I can even do some jumping jacks for 10, 20, 30 seconds. I can put a dance track on and kind of energize myself if I've been sat for an hour. I brush my teeth twice a day. It's easy to integrate a bit of movement whilst brushing my teeth. There's no rule to say I have to stand still to do that. I have kids, so I have to get them ready for school. So there's moments where I'm waiting for them or doing things. So if I think about it in that way, that before I know it, I've done 20 or 30 1-minute micro moments of movement, end of the day, I can tick my box and go, I did it. And it's the same with self-care. If you watch Netflix and you binge watch, as they now say, the average kind of UK household binge watches 6 hours a day of TV. Wow. So if you've got time to sit, whether it's to watch the news, watch Netflix, could you also sit and do a hand massage whilst you're watching? Could you sit there with a little tray of your face oils and serums and kind of do a little bit of face massage, or comb through your hair and put some conditioner on? Like, could you do a tummy massage for yourself? Could you do some stretches? Could you reduce the 6 hours of Netflix watching to 5 hours and go and do some meditation or read a book? So it's kind of like, what's the reality of your day, and where could you fit in just 60 seconds of something better for yourself? And it might even be, could you put more plants around your desk? Could you, exchange the coffee for a herbal tea? Or, it's what can we replace? Because when we give ourselves big things to change, like I've got to go out and do 30 minutes of exercise or an hour of exercise, or I need to take myself for a 90-minute massage or a 60-minute facial or whatever, it's much harder to integrate if you're already feeling massively overwhelmed and struggling. So I'm a big believer in these micro moments, and I think the minutes add up and they become really mighty, meaningful sort of moments at the end of each day.
That's fantastic. And I think, yeah, absolutely. Also just placing value on simply showing up consistently, keep doing it consistently. And you'll see, a day becomes a week becomes a fortnight becomes a month. And before you know, you've got this wonderful new habit that you've completely seamlessly integrated into your life. And I know that's a bit of psychology, isn't it, Michelle, in the sense of there is something in the world of psychology that says it takes 40 days, I believe, to bring in a new habit. And so before you know it, you're on the self-care path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it feels less daunting. I mean, I'm an all or nothing personality. So I'm either all in or I'm all out. There doesn't seem to be much gray. No matter how much I try to change, that it is just my natural personality. It is my default. And so if I don't do it, I then beat myself up that I didn't do it. Where if I can go, okay, well, I did 15 minutes though, or I did 20 minutes, it wasn't nothing. I did something. It motivates me to try harder the next day, because otherwise, we're constantly learning and hearing about what we're not doing right, or what we're not achieving, or whatever. And so actually just giving yourself these kind of moments of motivation too, because if you did do 20 jumping jacks whilst you waited for your cup of tea, well done you, because you could have just stood there and checked your phone, but you didn't. And so that motivates you to do it the next minute and the next minute. And so it's not just then about achieving the goal to become habitual, although of course that's really key. It makes it fun. It makes it more playful. I get way more excited and creative about ways I can add in these meaningful moments because they don't feel daunting. I mean, who doesn't have 60 seconds?
Exactly. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, there's we can take lots from that. And I'm going to be doing some of those things today. And then just finally, your work, what you're contributing to health and well-being, positive health in the sense of coaching, natural medicine, healing, in the sense of the therapeutic body work, and the courses that you facilitate through TPOT. And I know also alongside that you also have a podcast and there's webinars, and you're a huge educator. So what role, as you expand and grow, do you see TPOT playing in in the world of health, well-being, transformational health. Where do you place yourself in a specific part of it, or is this something that's an evolution as time goes on?
I think it is an evolution, and I've learned as I've got older to kind of try not to give myself such a definitive end goal, and to just kind of, loosely, of course, we have a direction. Of course, there are areas we want to grow and develop and get better at, and reach more people, of course. But ultimately, my 20s and 30s, I was probably much more definitive about I'm here, I'm at A, and I'm a proper coaching mentality if I want to get to B, and what are my options and how do I get there and when do I measure that success. And I've kind of definitely backed off that a lot more as I approach kind of my sort of fifth decade. And I guess I am a massive advocate for modern medicine. So although I hate lots of what's happening across the NHS and across our current way of thinking and doing things, and I think there are a lot of improvements that can be made for the sake of us all, I also really value the people that work in those sectors and what they're trying to do with very little funding and often very poor resources. I am a massive advocate for integrative. We have this whole body of ancient wisdom, and actually the deeper I dive into it, and I know as you have, the more you realize there is so much simple truth in all of this, and it doesn't need to be complicated, but married with the science. I mean, take the microbiome. I mean, I've been talking about the magic of gut health for 30 years. Nobody was listening, as you would have been.
Yeah.
And within our sector, gut health was just intrinsic. All disease starts here. Sleep is critically important. If you want a good day, you have to sleep well. And suddenly the science has caught up, and now mainstream medicine preach the importance of sleep and have sleep budgets and strategies now in place. And microbiome, my gosh, I mean, they are suddenly world educators and leaders in the art of microbiome and how important it is. And so I believe there's a real beautiful synergy between the two, taking the best of what modern medicine and advancements in AI and technology can give us for that ability to personalize medicine and prescriptive care, but retaining the root cause of our humanness and our sense of purpose and individualism with the ancient wisdom. And I think particularly with things like cancer care and dementia care, rather than, a good example is, 50 years ago, there would have been a few chemo drugs and you got cancer, you got given one of them, and it was kill or cure. Nowadays, there are hundreds of types of drugs, and actually you won't be given one until they have biopsied your cancer, until they've investigated it. They would have run blood tests and genetic tests to assess your tolerance to certain things. And the medicines you now get are so much more personalized. That really excites me. That's modern medicine. That's AI. That's technology. That's evolving us at such a rapid pace now to get there. But there also is this simplicity of how to really live in harmony and synergy, because we're energy with ourselves, with each other, and with the planet, that I just think the two are a beautiful marriage. And I want our training to always be a massive celebration of that, and to be flying the flag for all of those practitioners like us that are heart-led and who really want to make a massive and meaningful difference in the health and well-being of their clients.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. And what I look forward to seeing how TPOT develops over the years, also with with the advancement of, like you say, the technologies, but also in the essence of how we maintain connection with each other, connection with nature, connection with spirit, connection with soul. And I really, a key thing I've taken from your interview today is this idea that actually feeling the energy in the room and how important that is, and we must never ever move away from that. So thank you very much.